The environment has always been a source of livelihood, and knowledge of the environment is the wisdom upon which civilization is founded. For example, what crops you can grow and what animals you can domesticate and farm. Guangxi is not ideal for farming. The climate is good, it's warm and moist, but with mountains covering 80% of the province, good arable land is scarce. So farming in Guangxi is not easy, but it is possible if you make the most of Mother Nature's gifts. It's now May and the monsoon season is coming. All over Guangxi, temperatures soar. Everywhere, that is, except Dunhuang County. In this highland area just south of the Yunnan-Guizhou Plateau, the hot and humid summer has yet to arrive. Huang Yujian is getting ready for the busiest time of the year. The rainy season is coming. It's time for him to transplant some very special seedlings. Dunhuang County is high up in the mountains, and that means there's very little high-quality arable land here. But a harsh environment isn't harsh for everything, not for every type of crop. A particularly precious crop does very well round here. One carefully plants seedlings row by row in the paddy field. It's very skilled work. The farmers work together, their movements choreographed, and the result too is like a work of art.
这个品种它比较高岗，连片种呢容易倒伏，拿到跟那个撒脚水稻种，它不怕倒伏，它倒伏了就有底下那个撒脚水稻那里顶上来，放到身上来。
It's a rare and precious crop known as ink rice because of the purple-black colour of its grains. And it's also a very sticky rice, highly prized for use in the many glutinous rice dishes that feature in Chinese cuisine. The ink rice is tall, 40 centimetres taller than ordinary indica rice. This method of interlacing ink rice and indica rice is a traditional method of cultivation that dates back at least 4 centuries. The idea is to use one type of rice to protect the other from the strong highland winds. One trusts in these methods used by his ancestors, and that the ink rice will not just survive the windy and rainy summer, but flourish. Provided, that is, the weather is good. All farmers here pray for good weather. In Binyang County, 70 kilometers northwest of Guangxi's capital, Nanning, Zhou Yute makes a start on his handmade bamboo dragons. This traditional handicraft has supported this family for 3 generations, and it's made them into locally famous craftsmen. Mr. Zhou reckons that this year he'll make at least 30 bamboo dragons. Myths and legends about dragons abound. Many people regard them as sacred creatures that control the elements.
红色的纸 就及时，它炸的时候它不会刀块块的掉出来的。
The dragon dance is an age-old Chinese custom that dates back at least several thousand years. Performing the dragon dance was in the past a way of praying for good weather and an abundant harvest.
你把那个油这边那边抽过来就好了。麻烦你那个出水没有？
For most of the year, Hu Tingshu works away from home. He's quit his job in the city to come and help his father make bamboo dragons. Handicrafts have always made an important contribution to the economy of Binyang. 10 years ago, Hu Tingshu learned the craft from his father. Although this is not his main occupation, this year is a little different from other years. Demand for bamboo dragons has gone through the roof. His father needs a helping hand. The plan is to finish 70 dragons before the 10th day of the first month of the lunar year. There's an awful lot of work involved. Once the head is done, they start work covering the frame with paper and material. The frame is the skeleton. Layer upon layer of paper and material gives the dragon a tough skin. Dragons like this are called firecracker dragons. It's probably fair to say that the Hu's dragons lack the delicacy of the Zhou family's dragons. Nevertheless, the Hu's dragons have their own uniqueness. They are white-beard dragons.
龙的话，做完的时候要把眼睛蒙起来，不能见光出去，只有开光的时候才可以见光，才可以醒来。
The South Bay of Weizhou Island in Beihai is an old crater and is surrounded by high mountains on 3 of its sides. And for Huang Jiankang, a local fisherman, this unique topography is the inspiration for a business venture of his own. In 2008, the south of China suffered a cold snap, and almost overnight most of the scallops that bear the cultured pearls died. As a result, many local pearl farmers switched to farming the more profitable freshwater pearls. But Wang Jiankang, an experienced fisherman, has another idea. He wants to culture sea pearls, something that not many people do these days. He hasn't got much experience, but he's targeted a gap in the market. Cultured sea pearls are what people really want. It could be a great opportunity for him.
养生贝的话，最大的困难呢，最大的风险呢，就是高温。我刮台风的时候就把它打坏。如果是那个马斯贝，就是珍珠贝，高温的时候都没死，都不会死。所以呢，我敢说这一片海域比较适合那个马斯贝的生长。水温高的时候它不会死，就怕台风。如果没有台风的话，一定成功。
Pearls are mainly made of calcium carbonate. Oysters, the bivalves that produce this precious jewel, have been living quietly beneath the sea for millions of years. A pearl develops when a grain of sand gets inside a shell and irritates the oyster's soft body. It excretes a substance that smooths the rough surface of the grain of sand, and in time, this becomes a pearl. Huang believes South Bay is ideal for raising oysters. It's sheltered from the wind, and the tides bring with them a rich supply of plankton for the oysters to feed on. When the oyster is about 3 years old, the shell is prized open and a small incision is made in the soft tissue of the oyster's body. Then, in order to imitate the intrusion of a grain of sand, an artificial pearl nucleus is inserted, a tiny bead just 4 millimeters in diameter. The idea is to get it exactly in the spot where the oyster will produce most mother of pearl. That way, a pearl will rapidly form around this nucleus. Once this is done, it's time to put it back in the sea. With the right conditions and a bit of luck, in 1 or 2 years there'll be a 6 to 8 millimeter pearl inside the oyster's shell. Climate is a crucial factor when you're growing anything, whether under the sea or on land. Still, one thing's for sure. Lingshan County, lying right on the Tropic of Cancer, and thus frost-free all year round with plenty of sunshine and rain and a unique red soil, is the ideal place to grow lychees. Chozong has leased 3 acres of land to grow lychees on. You'll have to wait until May for the lychee, and before then, there's plenty of work to be done. Ring cutting is about making an incision around the bark of a tree. This helps to concentrate the organic nutrients produced by photosynthesis in the upper part of the tree, where the buds and fruits will be. Ring cutting takes place quite late in the process, but for some crops there are things that need to be done at the very beginning. In June, Mo Yi, a farmer from Helong village, goes up into the mountains. He wants some branches from the tree that produces star anise. He's been studying the tree and how it grows for years now, and he's become quite an expert amateur agronomist. A few days ago, Mo Yi heard that the cuttings he'd grafted onto the star anise trees had died. Star anise trees usually measure over 10 meters tall, so tall that you need to use a long stick to knock the star anise off. Trouble is, you can also knock the flowers off as well, and that has an impact on the following year's yield. Consequently, harvesting star anise properly is actually quite a complicated business. A century ago, Wang Hai-chen, a merchant from Gulong town, went on a journey. When he came back, he had with him a dozen star anise saplings. Today, star anise trees cover more than 49,000 acres in the vicinity of Gulong town. The trunk of the anise tree has a diameter of just 20 centimeters. Also, the wood is quite brittle. Many star anise gatherers get hurt when the branches of the trees they're harvesting snap. That's where Mo Yi's idea comes in. He's found a way of getting the star anise closer to the ground. Mo Yi's work focuses on 2 kinds of tree, year-old saplings and low-yield trees. It's a bit like advanced transplant surgery, like transplanting a head. Once he's removed the top of the tree, he grafts on a branch from another tree. Grafting is an invasive procedure that creates a wound. To stop the wound getting infected, Moi wraps the graft in a thin, sterile film. It won't be long before nutrients from the tree are flowing into the branch. Here, down in the tropics, conditions are ideal. In about 2 years, the tree will have grown a new top and be ready to blossom and fruit. So far, Moi has probably grafted about 100,000 trees. June the 22nd, the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. Shuzhui town in Guiping, located on the Tropic of Cancer, is the first place in Guangxi to bring in a rice harvest this year. But the clouds are brooding and heavy, and farmer Yang Bingyou is anxious to borrow as many harvesters as he can. The Xunjiang River flows through Guiping. The valley of the Xunjiang River is the biggest double-cropping rice area in the whole of Guangxi. There's good fertile soil down here, but the river can be unpredictable. The Xunjiang River's flood will be in spate soon. It's likely that the river will burst its banks and submerge over 5 acres of Yang Bingyou's paddy fields. He's got just 1 week to get all the rice safely gathered in. At long last, he's got the newly harvested rice needs to be dried as quickly as possible. If not, in the tropical heat of Guangxi, it'll go moldy very quickly.
种豆腐呢，现在呢赚不到钱，但是看见抛那个全部凋亡了，我还是想把它种起来。
Rice is actually a grass. Archaeological discoveries indicate that it was first cultivated about 18,000 years ago by mysterious people known as the Baiyu, who lived around the basin of the Pearl River in Guangxi. From there, the cultivation of rice spread far and wide. Today, nearly half the world's population eats rice as a staple food. But rice isn't just eaten as a grain. It's used to make lots of different products depending on the local culture and climate. Rice noodles occupy pride and place on the dinner tables here. For Yulin locals, the day kicks off with a bowl of meatball rice noodles. Yulin City is located in the southeast of Guangxi. It's one of Guangxi's most productive rice-growing areas. Rice noodles, as their name suggests, are made of rice. The rice goes through quite an involved process before it's ready to be turned into noodles. Rice noodles are a very versatile ingredient. They can be boiled or fried, and they can go with all manner of flavors. Meatballs, or meat eggs as people in Yulin call them, are made of pork, beef or fish. For Yulin people, meatballs and rice noodles are a match made in heaven. To make them, meat is beaten to a pulp. It's that process of beating that gives them their uniquely smooth yet al dente texture. The size of the meatball really depends on the hands of the person making it. Usually, they're simmered lightly until their reddish raw color gives way to white. For some, Yulin is full of nostalgic places. 60-year-old Yang Xueying used to be the star player in a factory basketball team. It's been 20 years since she gave up that job and returned home to take over her father's rice noodle restaurant and carry on the family trade. Beef jerky's been made in Yulin for over 700 years, and Yang Xueying is extremely good at making it. Cutting jerky is her specialty. Over the years, Yang Xueying's beef jerky business has become very famous. All three of them are still making handmade beef jerky. They go through 50 kilograms of beef a day. Spices are the secret of Yulin's beef jerky. The Tropic of Cancer passes through Guangxi. Spices thrive here. Star anise and cinnamon are probably the most widely used spices in China. 80% comes from Guangxi. Yulin is located right in the middle of this spice belt. It's a central hub of the Chinese spice trade. Yang Xueying is good with spices. Her beef jerky makes use of 20 separate spices. She's also an excellent judge of the quality of spices. Her beef jerky was handed down to her by her father. The exact recipe is, of course, a family secret. But once the sun-dried beef slices are mixed with the secret spice mix, simmered and then stir-fried, it becomes the traditional snack that people in Yulin all know and love. After the summer rice harvest, the winds from the southwest get stronger. Typhoon season is almost upon us again. Typhoon Ramazan is already in the Gulf of Wang is not taking any chances. He's not going to let the typhoon ruin all his hard work. The typhoon is on its way. That night, winds reach force 13 and the sky is open. When Ramazan moves on, Wang and his wife check out the pearl farm. It doesn't look good. You can see from the cables that many of the oyster cages have been upset. Lots of them must have fallen into the sea. But there's some hope. When he opens the shells, he sees that his scheme is going according to plan. The mother of pearl is building up. The pearls are growing. Wang's venture into the world of pearl cultivation looks like it could succeed. Farmers live at the mercy of the elements. Planting, reaping, sowing, everything has to be done when the weather is right. Life is a constant race against time. In Pingnan County in mid-east Guangxi, fruit grower He Shijuan's 6.6 acres of longan is about to be harvested. He Shijuan has hired some assistants. He checks the longans for ripeness one by one. If all looks well, he'll begin harvesting tomorrow. He's been growing longans for more than 30 years now. He believes he knows this fruit better than anyone else in the world.
种龙眼对我们家来是很重要的。我们家庭的主要经济收入就是靠种龙眼为主的。家里有几个孩子都读大学，经济来源都是靠种龙眼来供他们上大学。
The longans will be harvested tomorrow. He Shijuan is joined by his son, as it's his summer vacation now. Their first job is to build a shelter. Whatever else happens, they simply can't afford to let the newly picked longans get wet.
頭羹呢，拉鐵佢。
But before the shelter is finished, the skies open.
"种龙眼呢是很难的，它不是同其他作物年年都有收入的。應該都成交啦，點解會？
Fresh. But luckily his main market is Shenzhen. It takes just 18 hours to get the fruits there. He has to get the fruits bagged up and on their way to the railway station as quickly as possible. If he can get 200 cases of longans loaded onto the train before 5 p.m. that day, they'll be in time for the morning wholesale markets in Shenzhen that open at 2 a.m. The truck can't set off unless enough cases are on board. If they have to be left overnight, their quality will plunge, and so will their price and hers annual income. "5 p.m. and the first truckload of longans sets off. The Sheshia longans do in the end catch the morning market at the Shenzhen fruit market. The freshness of the produce is obviously attractive to buyers. Over the following week, a constant supply of fresh longans makes its way to market from He's farm in Guangxi. Late August, Dunhuang County. Guangxi ink rice is almost ready. Trouble is that ink rice can only be harvested manually. The hand scythes you see here appeared in Guangxi more than 7,000 years ago, and this ancient technology is still alive and well in Dunhuang County. You can only get about 600 kilograms of Dunhuang ink rice per acre. Because of its low yield and the effort needed to grow this crop, it's not especially profitable, so many farmers don't go to the trouble of producing it. Nowadays, just 160 acres is devoted to ink rice cultivation. Nevertheless, the rice is very nutritious, and so it's always in demand. There are rich rewards waiting for those who are willing to go to the effort of growing it. But the nutrition needs to be kept in the rice after it's been reaped. Most of the nutrition content is concentrated in the melanin in the skins, so the grains are only hulled once. Ink rice is soaked for 12 hours, steamed, cooled, and then sealed in jars. A special yeast is added to make the mixture ferment. After a week, ink rice wine, a Dunhuang specialty, is ready. It's the special qualities of ink rice that make Dunhuang ink rice wine one of the mellowest rice wines there is. And it's the best reward a farmer could get for all his hard work. It's now September, and Moe's star anises are ripe. The mountains are now rich with the familiar fragrance of the spice. Moe's grafting has paid off. The reduced height of the trees makes it a lot easier to harvest the anise pods, and as a result, yield has gone up by 3 times. Nevertheless, although harvesting has got easier, it still isn't exactly easy. The flowers and fruits are still easy to damage, reducing yield the following spring. The freshly picked star anises need to be boiled first. The purpose is to deactivate the enzymes. Deactivating the enzymes fixes inside the pods. When that's done, the anises can be dried. Getting all the moisture out of the star anises is a slow process. Gradually, the star anises get redder and shinier and more intensely fragrant. Soon, 10,000 tons of star anises will be gathered and distributed. Almost every home in Moe's hometown, Gulong, will be full of its wonderful fragrance. Guangxi is rich in natural resources and it enjoys a moist climate. The place abounds with plants of every kind, shape and size. Flowers do especially well here, and August is the busiest time for flower growers in Hung County. From dawn to dusk, the flower growers have barely a second to spare. The job of picking jasmine flowers is particularly demanding. The farmers have to pick the highest quality flowers at just the right moment. Jasmine flowers crop fall. The summer crop is harvested in August. Summer jasmine flowers have a particularly high oil content, so they're the best for making jasmine tea. Hung County produces more than 80% of China's jasmine and 60% of the world's. Tea merchant Liang Chao-en is in the field inspecting the flowers. She wants to develop a new kind of jasmine tea, and she's looking for just the right kind of jasmine. Liang, who used to be a primary school teacher in Zhejiang province, came to Hung County in Guangxi for the first time 9 years ago. The allure, like the scent of the jasmine, was so strong, she decided to stick around. Traditional jasmine tea is a fairly low-end product, and Liang is always thinking of combining jasmine tea with the famous high-end Longjing tea from her hometown. Over the past few years, she's done experiments using many expensive Longjing teas. But experienced tea experts have warned her that the pores on Longjing tea leaves are too small to absorb the fragrance of the jasmine. She needs a kind of jasmine that will release the fragrance at a lower rate. Hung County jasmine has heavy buds and a strong scent, but most importantly, its fragrance is released very slowly. This makes it ideal for the kind of tea that Liang wants to blend. People have been growing jasmine in Hung County since the 15th century, but intensive production only began in the 1990s, when a large number of peasants switched to growing flowers instead of the usual arable crops. Ms. Chen's family owns half an acre of flower field. That's not much, but it still produces tens of thousands of jasmine flowers per year. Everything is done by hand. She spends 2/3 of the year picking flowers and the rest attending to the field. It usually brings in about 30,000 yuan a year. Although people have been growing jasmine in Hung County for nearly 400 years, most farmers of Aunt Chen's generation have only been in the game for 20 years or so. There are now 300,000 jasmine-producing households in Hung County, and it's the largest jasmine-producing area in China. Jasmine rewards people with its beautiful fragrance. And here, every farmyard is full of its scent. Fresh buds collected in the day bloom and release their fragrance between 8 and 9 p.m. But that blooming period is very short. The flowers have to be at market in peak condition by the following afternoon. A quantity of over 200 tons of fresh flowers has to be sold in just a few hours. Liang Chao-en buys 200 kilograms of jasmine flowers in the flower market, but today she buys single-petal jasmine. Though single-petal jasmine flowers don't have as strong a scent as double-petal jasmine, the smell is subtler and it's more enduring. Because of the low yield and high price of single-petal jasmines, they're much less popular, but Liang Chao-en believes they're worth a try. Aromatizing tea with jasmine flowers is actually a process by which tea leaves absorb the jasmine fragrance. Experienced tea makers are able to control this process. When buds are piled up, the temperature inside them increases until it reaches a critical point and the scent is released. The next step is to mix tea leaves and jasmine flowers, keeping the temperature as close to 35 degrees Celsius as possible. Over the next 2 hours, the scent will be released and the tea aromatized. 12 hours later, the scent has entirely faded from the buds. It's been transferred from the flowers to the tea leaves. The secrets of flower tea vary from tea maker to tea maker. Paying careful attention to temperature, colour and lustre, Liang Chaoen settles on the most conventional method of permeating the tea with jasmine scent. She chooses 5-layer aromatization. The flowers and tea are piled on each other layer by layer. It takes even longer for the fragrance to permeate the tea naturally. Liang Chaoen samples tea made from single petal jasmine. It's not ready to be released onto the market just yet. Chinese New Year is approaching, and in Binyang, the topic on everybody's lips is the firecracker dragon. Firecrackers symbolize clearing away the old of the year gone past and ushering in the new. In Binyang, every dragon firecracker contains no more than 0.02 grams of gunpowder. For the people of Binyang, it's the most exciting day of the year, the Firecracker Dragon Festival. The delicate dragons made by Hu and his son, as well as Master Zhou, are blown to bits by the firecrackers. The most solemn moment of the Firecracker Dragon Festival comes as night falls. An elder snaps the cockscomb and drops blood in the eyes of the white-bearded dragon made by Hu's family. This means his eyes have lit up. It symbolizes that the dragon has revived and is alive and well in the real world. Starting at the Firecracker Dragon Old Temple, the Dragon Dance Parade passes through every street in Binyang. Along the streets, firecrackers prepared by every family await the coming dragon. And the bangs of these fireworks are impressive when you bear in mind just how little gunpowder they contain. Each dragon is accompanied by guards who drive off anyone who tries to sneakily attack the dragon with torches. Attacking the Supreme Dragon and throwing firecrackers at the dragon is a source of great excitement for people here during the ceremony. It's said that anyone who can get under the dragon's belly will be safe and well for a whole year. For the time being, Binyang town is totally preoccupied with the world of the dragon. Today, in this part of Guangxi, it's a wonderland and a reminder that a ritual dating back to the days when peasants lived precarious lives dependent on the vicissitudes of nature is still relevant today. Rooted in their mountains and rivers and inspired by nature, the creativity of the people of Guangxi has made its own contribution to the Wonderland.